fueling in the heat, beating the bonk, and completely eliminating GI issues. Summer is in full swing, and so is the heat. Time to literally get a good sweat on to take advantage of the hot weather so that you can shed those extra pounds and up your fitness game. But training in the heat is no fun unless it's in the water, right? What's more, the heat presents a lot of challenges, and like all challenges, we can either rise to meet them or we can allow them to limit and even defeat us. Fortunately, we humans are supremely robust and adaptable. Millions of years of human evolution have shaped us to have an innate robustness and very unique adaptations which confer several advantages in the heat. Adaptations like having a lot less hair, fur, and feathers combined with sweat glands and a very simple digestive tract instead of a multi-compartment fermentation one. All these help us in the heat. So while we're uniquely adapted to the heat still presents challenges, especially in the modern man-made world where the conveniences of air conditioning, relatively sedentary lifestyles, and highly processed and easily accessible food sources have undone our evolutionary adaptations and our tolerance to the heat. This presents modern man with these three main challenges, especially if you're an athlete and you're wanting to be fit, healthy, and perform. And the first one is actual heat acclimatization. The second one is fueling in the heat. And the third one is hydration. So let's break it down to these three topics, and I'm going to talk about them today. The first challenge is adapting to the heat. This is a very real process and occurs on a cellular and mitochondrial level in response to constant exposure to elevated temperatures and physical activity. The proteins which make up the mitochondrial supercomplexes, they literally have to refold, reshape, and remake themselves to be able to better dissipate heat from physical activity. And this is normally a 2 to 3 week process of training in the heat and or exposing yourself to super high temperatures such as sessions in the sauna or steam room. Now during this process, you will note that not only as you get exposed to heat, your sweat rate's going to be high, but also initially your concentration of salt in your sweat is very high, which is evidenced by salt caking on your skin and clothing. Once you see the salt staining starting to dissipate, this means you're adapting. And you're going to still sweat a lot, but you'll have less sweat in that salt. And on cooler days, you're also going to notice you're going to sweat a lot less. Heat acclimatization means getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, knowing you're going to be a better and truer version of yourself for doing so. So always keep that in mind when you're out there suffering and wondering why you're doing that and why you're not waiting for cooler temperatures. The second subject, of course, is fueling in the heat. And we're constantly being told we need to fuel, we need calories. And on the surface, this makes a lot of sense. After all, it takes energy to move, and the faster and harder you go, the greater the energy demand. And because we want to all go harder and faster, ergo, we need more energy. But this modern approach presents a conundrum in the heat. The more calories taken in, external calories, the greater the risk of serious and debilitating GI issues. If you don't take enough in, you're going to bonk. But what we're talking about is if you take too much in, you're going to get nausea, gas, bloating, and worse. It's no fun. And this modern approach has focused on developing various products and strategies to get more calories in rather than an approach more aligned with our biology and evolutionary heritage of harnessing those onboard calories for energy. The conventional focus on external calories, a one-dimensional approach, leads to a dead end when trying to fuel in the heat. Because if you don't get enough in, you bonk. If you get too much, you're going to have GI issues. And what's more, it's got not only has critical implications for your performance, but your health. Now, in the case of physical activity in the heat, your body is actually shunting blood from your muscles to your skin surface to sweat to dissipate that energy and heat generated for physical movement. The hotter the temperatures, the higher the humidity, and the greater the effort, the more sweat you have to generate to thermoregulate. Under such conditions, the body is essentially placing the digestive tract on sleep mode, meaning blood flow is severely restricted to the GI tract. This fact alone compromises your ability to process and assimilate calories beyond some simple sugars, thus making you susceptible to GI issues. The point here is you have to realize you really can't assimilate anything more than a trickle of simple sugars in the heat. And you shouldn't try to train your gut to tolerate more calories than it can during exercise, regardless of the temperature. And here's why. No matter what the conditions, you're going to be restricting blood flow to your GI tract because of physical activity and or the environmental conditions of heat. And this is why, exactly why, you don't do calisthenics before an evening meal any more than you try to eat a meal on the run. And why we tend to be hunger suppressed when it's hot and why our hunger turns up in the cold. It's allocation of blood resources. And these are simple physiological responses and physiological facts nobody argues about. Yet somehow in our misguided quest to get more calories in, rather than harness the ones we have locked inside us, we have lost sight of these facts and we've lost the narrative of our natural heritage for one that can be monetized. This is where optimizing fat metabolism confers a tactical and strategic advantage. You simply need a fraction of the calories compared to an athlete who's dependent upon carbohydrate to maintain performance under hot conditions. What's more, you won't bonk, you'll completely avoid GI issues, and you'll prevent damage on a cellular level. Any significant increase in fat oxidation profoundly impacts your external energy needs. And yes, the easiest and quickest way to move the needle is by incorporating Vespa, a naturally occurring peptide which is a catalyst to shift your body's metabolism back to the energy source you are meant to harness for aerobic activity, your own onboard body fat. And finally, let's talk a little bit about hydration. Physical activity in the heat, particularly strenuous activity, creates a critical need to stay on top of hydration, both for performance and health. And while most people know they need to hydrate, they do not recognize hydration is much more than drinking lots of water or sports drinks. Here are some key points and concepts to keep in mind because hydration is a constantly moving target. First of all, you have to understand that hydration is dynamic, highly dynamic. The potential for swings in your hydration needs can be huge based upon the different variables of temperature, humidity, the kind of activity or sport you're doing, and the intensity level of said physical activity. Once again, keep in mind your robust native physiology. It has built-in mechanisms to maintain homeostasis. It's a big word, I know. But what this means is you don't have to perfect hydration. The main goal should be to simply focus on replacing the water and principal electrolytes you lose through sweat, breathing, and urine, and your body will adjust to make up that difference over time using those built-in reserves. And that's why you don't pre-hydrate. You don't want to use up those reserves. Now, a well-conditioned male athlete can actually lose over 1 liter of fluid an hour, so it is vitally important to properly hydrate for anything beyond 90 minutes of duration when it's hot. Again, you have built-in reserves for an hour or two, but beyond that, you're going to need to be on top of it. Now, sodium is the principal electrolyte for extracellular fluid balance, including blood and plasma volume. And this is why sodium, and to an extent chloride, are the principal electrolytes lost in sweat. And this is precisely why sweat tastes salty. So maintaining this electrolyte balance through replacing what is lost via sweat and urine is crucial not only for performance, but health. While your body has reservoirs of sodium in the liver and skeletal tissues to buffer some water intake, for optimal performance, sodium supplementation is vital. Recent trials have shown that a well-conditioned endurance athlete can consume up to 2,000 milligrams, that's 2 grams, of sodium with approximately 50 ounces of water over a 60 to 90 minute period of relatively intense exercise in the heat. Now, while this is an upper limit for drama, right? Most male athletes will require between 700 and 1500 milligrams of sodium an hour to sustain performance level physical activity in the heat, with females requiring 500 to 1200 milligrams per hour. Now, these are ballpark figures, which gives you an idea of where to start and how to adjust. Now, if you can simply focus on replacing water and sodium, you can avoid cellular dehydration and easily rehydrate after your activity, and this will minimize GI issues and help minimize caloric needs, and most of all, optimize your recovery by preventing the damage. Now, if you have the opportunity or logistics to cool yourself, take full advantage of them. Cold water, ice cold drinks, including crushed ice and slushies, all will help in thermal regulation. Cooling your head and core down have profound impacts on mental signaling that regulates your output in the heat. So if you have these kind of things to help you in the heat, use them. Use these 3 strategies and you will find yourself avoiding the bonk, eliminating GI issues, and have a secret weapon to dominate in the heat this summer and fall. If you would like to learn more, we've developed a couple of pieces of content to help you navigate this topic. The first one is called Conquering the Terrible 3, and it's available at vespapower.com/terrible3. And the second, the Revolutionary Evolutionary Guide to Fueling and Hydration for Triathlon, is also available at vespapower.com/multisport-fueling. These content pieces offer actionable paths so you can thrive no matter what the conditions. Use the links now and get started.